You're listening to Where You Live with Gene and Tony.
Welcome back to Where You Live with Gene and Tony. Before we get going here in our next topic here, I want to remind our listeners here in the first hour, we've got a great publication that is yours, free for the asking. It's called What's New. A lot of the topics we cover on the radio show are covered in further detail. All you need to do is give us a call during the week at New Concepts at 952-922-2500. Ask for Courtney, and she'll make sure that you start receiving your subscription. And if you're just joining us, Tony is broadcasting live from the Concierge Landscape Studios. I am broadcasting live from the Extreme Exteriors Mobile Broadcasting Unit, powered by Skype.
And we want to hear from our listeners. Please call in with comments or questions. We want to know your opinion. 651-289-4488.
Now, we had this story we talked about just a little bit last time on the air, but Tony, will you read it
Sure.
for everyone? The bill restricting elections for condominium associations.
Yep, this comes out of Connecticut. State Representative Robert W. Magna, Democrat, New Haven, on Wednesday praised the legislature's overwhelming approval of legislation he sponsored that would prohibit practices that could lead to influence peddling in condominium association elections. The legislation, HB 6234, now goes to Governor Daniel P. Malloy for his approval. Magna said that each year hundreds of condominium owners file complaints with both the State Attorney General and the Department of Consumer Protection regarding the management of condominium associations. Quote, this legislation will help remove any unhealthy influence on the democratic process of the condominium association by management companies, said Magna. He's the House Chair of the Insurance and Real Estate Committee. The bill promotes a healthy democratic process in the management of condominium associations and prevents associations from being held responsible for the improper actions or bad decisions of property managers. Quoting again, community association management companies, because of their financial relationship with the condominium association, should clearly stay away from the democratic process of the board of directors of the condominium association, Magna said. This legislation helps ensure that. So what's going on in Connecticut?
Yeah, I think what's interesting here is that here we have it, I think, framed very well. Here's new legislation, and the problem is that they think that there is management companies that are trying to influence elections of board of directors. Okay. And they have, because they have a contract and are making money with the association,
sure,
that they are using power unjustly in trying to get, doesn't the, what is being inferred here is that the management company is setting up a puppet board, or people
sure,
in favor of just them. And I think it's terribly misleading.
I do too. For one thing, I guess it's possible that a management company, in order to keep a contract, would try and influence a board election so that people favorable to the management company are elected to the board. It's certainly possible in any contractual situation where someone is using undue influence or conflict of interest. What I disagree with is I can't imagine that it's such a huge problem that state legislation was needed.
Well, that's the point right there, isn't it, Tony? We see over and over again where legislators want to make something law. They want to address something that is only happening in such a minute number of cases.
Yeah.
And I think when you try to deal something that deals with the minority instead of the majority, I think you end up having some issues. And in this case, you have some unintended consequences.
Well, that's right, because
thinking about.
I mean, certainly I wouldn't disagree with any legislation that said management companies, you cannot influence the election of board members. I agree with that. But
True.
Of course, this legislation goes much farther than that, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. And as we start going through this and have our listeners listen to this, you'll begin to realize that probably 80% of it has nothing to do with the elections at all and are addressing so many other issues, and you wonder what the heck is going on. It just seems to be sort of a garbage bill of so many other added things that someone was just thinking about in sort of a free-for-all thinking session.
Okay. It was a wish list. It's kind of a wish list.
Let's go through just a little bit of that. And this is, again, it says this is House Bill 6234. And I think it says, and this is the basis for it, no person shall provide or offer to any executive board member or a person seeking election as an executive board member, and no executive board member or person seeking election as an executive board member shall accept any item of value based on any understanding that the vote, official action or judgment of such member or person seeking election would or has been influenced.
Okay.
And it says no managing agent, no management company, in other words, of the association or person providing association management services shall solicit proxies from any unit owners or campaign for any person seeking election.
Okay.
It seems like we're talking about several different things here.
Sure.
The one thing that I think is absolutely ludicrous is the idea of the prohibiting a management company from being able to collect proxies in order for an annual homeowners meeting to take place.
Well, for one thing, to use the word solicit proxies. Proxies are granted by someone who can't attend a meeting. And you can assign a proxy to someone specific who's a member in the association to vote for you, or you can assign your proxy just to help meet the quorum of the meeting, correct?
That's right. And,
management companies don't get to vote. Management companies don't get to be part of the quorum. So that's true. Management companies should not be soliciting proxies for themselves because they can't use the proxies. So what does this really mean?
Well, the bottom line here, let's take a look at fact, and that is most homeowner associations probably don't even get a chance to meet at their annual meeting because they don't have quorum. I mean,
Sure.
I don't know how many have to reschedule because they don't have enough proxies as it is.
And often documents here in the state of Minnesota, modern documents, will state, I think, that a 2/3 majority has to be the quorum for an annual meeting. Is that right? Or is it a simple majority?
It'll vary depending on the governing documents.
So anyway, there's a requirement. A certain number of people have to attend the meeting in order to even hold the meeting. That's what a quorum is. And proxies are a way to get enough names together to hold the meeting.
Do you know what I think is happening here? And I see this all the time with legislators. The one part of the bill that they want to influence, they know, I think, in their heart of hearts, it's poorly written and just kind of on there on the fly. They add something else that is obvious. And I think the obvious thing that they're talking about is that first section when they said that nobody that's running for the board should accept anything of value. I think that's pretty well known and understood, and nobody disagrees with that statement.
That's right, because that would be contrary to our democratic process.
But it's the next one that seems to be just kind of thrown in there, and I think they're kind of hoping that people will kind of gloss over that because they realize that the other is more important. Mm-hmm. And it's just... legislators do it all the time to just kind of get things passed so that they can turn around and say, look what I had a chance of influencing.
Right.
If the legislator had said, look, I passed a bill that said that you can't influence the election of a board member of board elections taking place, I think a lot of people would say, we already have a lot of laws already in place talking about illegal elections, and that's pretty well stated.
Right, that's right. Is more legislation really necessary? But now, if you're saying that you want to prevent home management from even collecting proxies, that's going to really be a hardship on the homeowners association. One reason they hire a management company is they contract for certain tasks to be undertaken by the management company so that a volunteer board does not have to go door to door collecting proxies. The management company can send out a letter on behalf of the board saying, please mail your proxy to the management company and we will bring it to the annual meeting. Right?
Yeah, and that's an excellent point, Tony. The management company is called the managing agent. In other words,
right.
It means that they're the person who's stepping in the shoes of the board of directors.
That's right.
And when you have a law that says a function that the board of the directors can do and normally does now cannot be done by the managing agent,
right.
You're telling the board, we want to control the contract or agreement that you have with the management company, thus causing the board and others more work instead of something that they appreciate.
That's right. And there's more in this bill that also does that same thing about paying bills, about getting contract work done, about writing checks to pay bills, about determining what needs to be done when. It's basically trying to, the bill seems to be very overreaching and trying to undo a contract you would have with a managing agent and putting it all back in the lap of the board. Am I wrong?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
And again, the legislation that this legislator was referring to, he said this is the one thing that he wanted to accomplish. But as the rest of the bill goes on and states, it starts getting involved in so many more other areas. It is just unbelievable. And I want us to delve into that a little bit, but we need to take another break right now. Folks, you're listening to Where You Live with Gene and Tony on AM 1280 The Patriot. We'll be back after this.